Hi, it's Deepak Bhatt here, reporting from the European Society of Cardiology in London, and I have the distinct pleasure of having Professor Keith Fox here with me to discuss three of the really exciting studies that have been presented here. Let's start off perhaps with some analyses from the IMPROVE-IT trial. The IMPROVE-IT trial, of course, was a trial of patients randomized to either placebo or ezetimibe on top of simvastatin, patients with recent acute coronary syndromes. And the overall trial was positive, showed a benefit for ezetimibe. Presented here was a diabetic subgroup. What did you think about the diabetic results?
Deepak, first of all, it's great to be here with you and to chat about these studies. I think that the key messages for me from the diabetic study is the affirmation about how high a risk that diabetic population is, and the fact that further LDL lowering clearly showed evidence of benefit. So I think those were the key take-homes for me from that part of the study.
That's right. There were two different presentations. In fact, a number of presentations showing the safety and incremental efficacy of LDL lower than 50 versus greater than 50, and safety and particularly great efficacy in the diabetic subgroup.
Yeah, and coming to the point about LDL lower than 50, this is, I think, a really important finding because the wider community is worried about potential adverse effects of very low LDL. And here's an important, large-scale, long-term study that provides us with reassurance that there's a continuous relationship. And I think this is going to be interesting not only from the point of view of what's achieved in IMPROVE-IT,
right,
but also with the PCSK9 inhibitors just coming along.
Absolutely. No, it sets the stage nicely for the evaluation of PCSK9
Sure.
inhibitors and what their effects on cardiovascular outcomes may be. Another study that I thought was interesting was the LEADLESS-2 trial. And this wasn't actually a randomized trial, but it was a careful examination of a completely leadless pacemaker that's implanted in the right ventricle, which is a concept I think is fascinating. What did you think of the results?
Yeah, it's novel technology. I see this as on the way, but not there yet.
Sure.
You know, they had a rate of adverse events, serious adverse events, about 1 in 15, which is not trivial. So I see this as in development. Maybe, 5 years from now, this is the way pacemakers are going to be. There's obviously the limitation that it's just single chamber.
Yes, that is, because lots of patients get AV pacemakers, of course. So that's one limitation. The complication rate is another limitation. But certainly it seems that if this technology were to be refined and continue to improve, it could be the future.
It could be the future. I agree with you.
And the final trial I think is worth discussing is the CIRCUS trial, which I guess you could say was a negative trial overall. This was a trial of MI patients who were randomized to cyclosporin or not to see if it would decrease reperfusion injury. There's some good animal work that suggests that it should have had an effect in heart outcomes, but it didn't. So no role for cyclosporin in the acute MI patient. That's probably not so surprising. But for people who followed the preclinical work, it seemed like it should have been a positive study. What does that tell us about all the animal studies and preclinical work we're doing?
You know, Deepak, I still don't believe that we're so different from the animal studies, but I think the design is different. Being able to get agents on board ahead of time or early in the process of reperfusion injury and ischemic injury is probably critical. And one of the difficulties with studies like the CIRCUS trial is it's relatively later in the course of that ischemic injury when they receive the agent, and then to get effective concentrations into the myocardium takes time.
Sure, those are great points, but it is a bit discouraging because yet another agent studied for reperfusion injury has failed, and it's a long list of agents that have failed for that purpose.
You're absolutely right, and as of now, our best therapy is reperfuse.
Right, yeah.
And reperfusion injury is on the back burner.
That's right. The key is to open up the artery, preferably with a balloon and a stent. Well, it's really been a pleasure here talking to Professor Keith Fox from London, covering the European Society of Cardiology. Hope all of you at home get to enjoy in some of the fun listening to us and finding out what's going on at a distance. Thanks for listening in.
Thank you.